Hello again, I'm Richard Davies, and today our latest report on the growing pushback against toxic polarization, the fear, loathing, and partisan division that poisons American politics. Our guest is filmmaker and storyteller Swati Srivastava. She has a compelling life story. Her work encourages hope and curiosity. Our conversation includes some insights and answers to a grave question that we often ask on this show. How do we fix what's driving us apart?
I heard something which I don't know if it's scientifically true, but it has great resonance. The quote said, we can live for 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air, but not a moment without hope. And I thought that is so beautiful. There's something so true about that. If I did not have hope, I would not leave the bed in the morning.
Our show is about fixes.
Yeah, how to make the world a better place.
How do we fix it?
How do we fix it?
40 years ago, when I was a very young man and moved back to America from Britain, I was delighted and impressed by the spirit of optimism that I found. Today, however, that hope, that optimism about the country's future is in short supply. So in this episode, a conversation with an immigrant filmmaker who believes we can change the story we tell about ourselves. Swati Srivastava is director of visual media at Crossing Party Lines, a nonprofit group that helps bring about conversations among Americans across the political divide. She established the group's Long Island chapter in New York and is also active with Braver Angels. Her short video, The Braver Angels Way, is designed to be played at the start of Braver Angels conversations and debates. You can find out more about Swati's film and storytelling projects at her website, The Independent Spirit. Swati Srivastava, welcome to How Do We Fix It?
Thank you very much, Richard. It's my pleasure to be here.
Let's start with your story, Swati. You're an independent filmmaker who was born in India, now lives on Long Island, New York. Why do you have a passion for bringing people together across partisan or party lines?
One of the big reasons I would say that my entire life has been about bringing something together. And I found great pleasure, growth, and reward in it. So, for example, I am, as you say, an independent filmmaker. I direct, I write, I direct, I produce. And one of the big jobs as a director producer is that I have to bring people together to make a project, a film project. And even in making a short film, I can sometimes have 60, 70 people on the
60 or 70 people?
60 or 70 people, depending on the country.
Podcasting's so much easier.
Yes, podcasting is easy. 60 or 70 people on one project. Okay. So now this is an army of artists moving along, marching along. Not that easy stuff. Everybody bringing their opinion, their skill, their talent. This is why you've hired them, because they're skilled, talented people. But they have to do, besides bringing their skills and talents, they have to do something else. They have to bring all of that in service of the one story we are trying to tell. The whole, when it's done well, the whole becomes larger than the sum of its parts. And that's something I've seen over and over again. The beauty of what happens when disparate people with disparate skills come together to serve something larger.
You've chosen to put a lot of your energy into movements that push back against polarization. Why? Why do you feel that American society is broken and that we need to come together more and be less divided?
All of us are seeing what's happening. Friendships broken, families broken, just the amount of sheer heartache that's going around. We're all breathing. This mood that's gripped us, it is making us all so dysfunctional. I mean, I myself feel that. This alienation, isolation, friends not able to speak to each other. So I used to have all these parties. I'm very social. I like to have parties at my house. And I would throw these big parties, people, calling people, inviting people. People would come talk politics and we would enjoy, have food, no problem. And over the years, I've seen how chill those parties have gotten, how people who could come together and very passionately debate politics are now cold and have disdain and contempt for the other side. It has an effect on everything. And that's bad for our mental health. We have a crisis of isolation, alienation, all kinds of things going on. And we can't seem to step out of this morass, if you will. I just want to share this. On Sunday, I was at a fellowship. I'm a UU.
UU.
Unitarian Universalist.
Unitarian Universalist.
That's right. Fellowship. That's my faith fellowship.
So I grew up as a Unitarian Universalist as a child.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And after this Sunday service, which was all about bringing people together and having an open mind, etc., it was a pretty good service. Then a person in front of me turns around, a woman maybe in her 70s, and she said, I'm going through therapy, and I just told the people, like the place where she went to for therapy, do not give me a therapist who belonged to a different political persuasion. Wow. And I was just struck. I mean, we've heard about people not wanting to date across political lines. And then this is the first time I heard people don't want a therapist across political lines. And so at an individual level, we are totally getting dysfunctional and broken up. And at the government level, at the highest level, we are broken up.
There's a lovely quote on your website, which is called The Independent Spirit. And I want to read it to you. We need to hold the truth, but hold it gently. We need to learn to do both. If we cling to our idea of truth, we disfigure it into a rigid grip of self-righteousness and turn that truth into a weapon. And weaponized truth simply becomes another truncheon to inflict pain on our fellow humans. Why does that thought have special resonance for you?
Yes, talking about the UU Fellowship, I actually heard that quote from a speaker right in front of me, the poet, musician Pat Victor. He had come to give a sermon about 2 years ago at our UU in Bayshore in Long Island. And I heard that, and I thought it's such a profound and such a complete, it encompasses the particular problem, the particular place we are in right now, where there is this, and I just want to connect why it speaks. I mean, I grew up a Hindu, we had in India, and there was a great emphasis, especially in my family, about learning about different faiths. I think I was a UU before I was a UU, or maybe UUs are Hindus, they just don't know that yet. And there was a story, you may have heard it, some of your audience may have, but this is the story of the 4 blind men and the elephant. And the story goes that there's 4 blind men and they've never experienced an elephant before. So one man goes around the back of the elephant and touches the tail and says, I know, the elephant is like a rope, because that's what he's touching. And then another person goes to the front and touches the trunk and says, I know, the elephant is like a python. Another person is touching the ear of the elephant and goes, oh, no, the elephant is like a fan. And the 4th one touches the trunk of the elephant and says, the elephant is like a tree trunk. So each one of them have a different view of the elephant, and they are so sure, so certain about each one of them being right, and they come to blows. In some versions of the story, they kill each other because they can't agree about what the elephant is. And I think both the story and the quote speak to the same thing. All 4 men were right. They had to hold their truth. I mean, we come into life with our experiences, our education, something we have learned. We all should be able to hold our truth about, well, I've learned something, but we have to learn to hold it gently without this certainty that what I know is all there is to know. There is so much more in the world than we'll ever learn, ever know. And that's where your experience comes into play.
And that sense that there's so much more to learn in the world than we'll ever know makes the world such a fascinating place to live in.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree with that.
Let's talk about the power of storytelling, which is something you're intimately involved with as a storyteller. How can telling stories, and in your case, making films, help us gain a better understanding of our fellow citizens, people not like us?
We need to tell a story about ourselves to make meaning of our lives. Big religions, I mean, oh my goodness, the world, religions, massive stories around which we come together and do something aspirational. Human rights, a story, right? Democracy, a story. I can't touch it. There's nothing tangible about human rights or about democracy. There's nothing tangible. In some ways, I would say America, we the people, a story that Americans told about themselves, and look where we are after 250 years almost. America, when I was growing up in India, my father was a technocrat and he was enamored with Kennedy and the whole thing with putting man on the moon. So he would tell us the story over and over again, of course, also about World War II and FDR. And I was enamored with the story of America. And I was like, I'm going to go to America. Oh my goodness. What mattered to me was the story of America. Stories matter.
Even if they're myths,
Even if they're
right?
myths, even if they're myths, or I mean, sometimes, especially if they're myths, because the reality could be very different, but it's the myth. There's an aspirational quality, an idealism to many myths.
So that's why storytelling is so crucial.
Absolutely.
How does storytelling bring us together? How does storytelling help us overcome these seemingly very, very hard divides that we have?
Absolutely. Just look at the story that's being told right now about ourselves. We don't have to go far. Any media channel, social media, cable, whichever, there's a story being told right now of us versus them. How we are good and they are bad. They're evil. Forget bad. We don't stop at bad anymore. We are right, they are wrong. We are sophisticated thinkers, they're simple thinkers. The story where people who don't think like us are enemies, traitors, we have to take it back in our hands and say, we're going to change the narrative. The narrative truly is that actually we are very similar. We have far more in common as humans, as Americans, than we have what makes us different. So I have multiple projects that I've been developing, media projects to bring us together, to have powerful narrative storytelling. And I do want to say one thing before we start this question, is that there is a company called Bridge Entertainment Arts, and they are getting into it. They're beginning to make, they understand this about media that brings us together. And I happened to see the first movie that they just produced, and I saw it. It's a movie called The Elephant in the Room. It's a romantic comedy about two people coming together across their political, who they vote for. It's fun. It's on Amazon Prime. I just saw it. I've got nothing to do with it. I just saw it and I was like, this is great. We have begun. We need more of this. And I hope I can be part of it. So if they're partners, sponsors, we want to work with them and we want to make more stories.
Swati Srivastava. The name of that movie she mentioned is The Elephant in the Room. I'm Richard Davies with How Do We Fix It? We've released more than 430 episodes of our show, and a constant theme is how do we talk more creatively across party lines? How do we get people of different points of view in the same room? If we brought the kind of energy and imagination to fixing our politics that we bring every day to our careers and our family life, America would be in much better shape than it is now. Here's more of my conversation with Swati Srivastava. Swati, I'm a first-generation American. You're an immigrant. My folks came from England. They went back, including my sisters. I stayed here. You came from India. Do you think that people like us find it more surprising that Americans are so tribal and so polarized when, as you say, many of us have a lot more in common in the way we look at the world than we realize from both sides?
Yes, I agree with that. I think there's a beautiful quote I heard which said, there are two times when we can't see something clearly. One, when we're too close, and another, when we're too far. But immigrants, first generation, we We are pretty close because we are living here. We are close, but we're not so close as in to be completely entrenched. Like, I did not grow up here with my entire family being, oh, we are all conservatives or we're all liberals, we vote this way, we're Kennedy Democrats. No, no. I mean, I don't have any family here. I'm just who I am. I came here, I saw things, and I could just, I almost the freedom to make up my own mind about things. And of course, we all have our leanings and some biases, etc. But there's not this entrenchment. When I was an adult when I came, so which means I had to learn to speak two different cultures. I mean, I go back there, I come back here, kind of being an interpreter, a translator of two different, very different cultures. And and lastly, I'm married to a British man who, it turns out, grew up not more than 10 miles away from where he went to college, it seems like. And so when we met, it's like, wow, our perspectives on almost anything and everything was totally different. Our perspectives on history was different. And we've learned so much from each other and grown with each other. So I've seen firsthand, personally, professionally, the magic that happens when people come together across whatever it is that they have to come together.
You said something really interesting about how we are not as divided as we think we are. And yet, there's a problem among so-called enlightened people who think they are the tolerant ones and that the other side is intolerant. They are the enlightened ones and the other side just doesn't get it. That's a problem as well, isn't it? Especially among highly educated people.
Absolutely. That is a myth that is not serving us. There's a myth that somehow only educated people who are educated in a certain format understand, could listen, and I will tell you what's happening in so many ways. They have probably never participated in a crossing party lines or braver angels conversation workshop because it's probably beneath them because they already know what everything there is to know, right? So
Okay, well, you're jumping to my next question,
they're certain.
which is talking about your work with Braver Angels and other groups who are pushing back against polarization. I know you're involved not only with Braver Angels, but also with a group called Crossing Party Lines that does similar work, workshops. Tell me more.
Yes, I got into this work about maybe about 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago. And my main reason for getting what brought me in because I was seeing the polarization and I wanted to make media about it. I was developing media projects. But what I was seeing was other media projects that were coming out, some of them, and I thought that they are not really grounded. That we call them ivory tower projects, like we're speaking from the top, from the mountain. And I didn't want to do that. So I went into and I started doing some workshops with Crossing Party Lines and learning and educating myself with Braver Angels. The Crossing Party Lines, which is a smaller organization than Braver Angels, it was the executive director was actually herself involved, and she and I got to talking a lot. I became a moderator, so I have moderated now so many conversations online, national, but also in person at my local Crossing Party Lines Long Island chapter, which I started 2.5 years ago. Our first conversation, 5 people showed up. Now, 2 years later, we are 330 people plus. And we have monthly conversations. As it's growing, we are discussing all kind of topics. People from all across the spectrum come. And then Braver Angels Long Island heard about what we were doing and they came to me and we made a partnership. And I love partnerships. So we made like a four-way partnership. We made a partnership with Braver Angels, made a partnership with a local cinema center, an independent cinema, where we show movies and hold discussions. And we made a partnership with my own local UU fellowship.
And do you think that's making a difference, these events? Do you think that some of the people who have attended them actually look at others a little differently than they used to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's personal. I myself have found such great friendships because I always felt that I didn't belong anywhere because I always saw things from a different lens, from a different, wider perspective. And now I'm with people who actually have the capacity for humility, for curiosity, for being able to see things. And I do think a lot of people who come, and I have so many examples where people have come And I see the moment that happens sometimes right in my room. We're having a conversation, and I see the moment when two people will look at each other who started, very tough and whatever, and then you see when they really see each other and something changes, something softens.
Give me an example of one of your workshops. What do you do? What happens?
Okay, so workshops and conversations are two different things. So in conversations, we just bring people together. So we were having a conversation on gun control. So we have about 20 people show up. We only allow 20. At the beginning, I would ask people to show a video that I made to just loosen people, set the ground rules, and then I ask people to introduce themselves and say, "Okay, just tell us what brings you here." Very short. Because one person says, "I am a pacifist. I'm a lifelong pacifist, and I'm distraught about the state of guns in our country. I'm distraught that there are 400 or something million guns, more guns than there are people, and I don't know where to go, and I'm just feeling so sad, and I'm here to talk about some of this." Then I go to the next person, and the next person happens to be a female. She goes, "Okay, and I have to come clean. I am a proud NRA member and a proud owner of 14 of those 400 million guns." And I thought, this is fantastic. This is why we do it. Where else could you find? This is like almost a joke, right? A pacifist and an NRA owner walk into a bar, right?
Right.
This is that thing. And they come into the conversation. We have progressives sitting there. We have people on the far right sitting there. And somewhere in the conversation, it emerges that this particular person, the NRA member, she's a bleeding heart feminist. And she thinks that women should have guns, should own guns. It's for their protection. It's for their equal rights. It's an equal rights issue. And what the stuff she's talking about, the very left, people on the left, feminists, are not, they can't almost, I see them going, the light bulbs going on. And suddenly they're talking about women's issues from totally across the aisle, because they found something common. They found common humanity. They found common ground. And I could go on and on, but this is the kind of stuff that goes on just in our conversations, just because people come and we create a framework of respect and listening.
And then you have workshops. What's the difference?
Yes, conversations are just this. We have a topic and then people talk. And the structure itself is, we say, about 2 minutes. We're trying to educate people to speak in a way that doesn't wound and listen in a way beyond the barriers and beyond the triggers. So that's the objective. So people can go into their lives and continue what they've learned through a lived experience of a conversation and continue that. Yes, workshops are giving people specific skills, like how to depolarize within, or how to speak to friends and family when you're in Thanksgiving dinner. That's workshops are more structured usually.
Is it your sense that we've reached the bottom and that polarization is not getting worse? Or maybe we still have a ways to go?
I would hope that we have reached the bottom, because I don't want to imagine a future where there's more bottom to this. I do feel a certain fatigue. I think fear and outrage is a lifespan. Human beings can't live in that. Usually, even in our normal lives, and we go through points of depression and this and that, and you lose somebody, there's grief. And then at some point you say, enough. I gotta roll my sleeves and do something in my life. I gotta move on. And I think some of that might be happening, at least in some of the work we are seeing. People are like, this is just nonsense. I can't live like that. There's a almost I feel like a human barometer, an internal barometer, which sort of says, okay, I got to do something about it. I can't just continue in this. People do have a sense that this is unsustainable, and they're looking for other ways to do something.
Well, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Every constant outrage and fear that things are always getting worse and that the other side is just beyond the pale. It's tiring. It's not uplifting.
It is definitely tiring. It's not uplifting. It's isolating. It's alienating. People divorcing their families and friends, and how can this be sustainable?
So on the other side, talk about the power of hope and curiosity.
You and I have just mentioned that we said there's certainty on one side and curiosity on the other side. Certainty is absolute certainty, which is holding the truth very strongly, is the death of curiosity, is the death of conversation, death of empathy. I know everything, go away. Whereas curiosity is the antidote, which says, tell me more. Tell me something. It's okay. I may still know something, but you could probably tell me more. And that's the opening. That's the opening where listening can happen. And when listening happens, well, then almost everything is possible. When you come in with the true listening of, I'm open, I want to hear something. So that, I think, curiosity and listening is a very, very important thing that we got to do here. And that's happening in this movement. The other thing is hope. I heard something which I don't know if it's scientifically true, but it has great resonance. The quote said, we can live for 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air, but not a moment without hope. And I thought that is so beautiful. There's something so true about that. If I did not have hope, I would not leave the bed in the morning. And so to bring that hope, to cultivate, it's a cultivating. We have to choose hope. We have to cultivate hope. And in that, because I was so into that, and I am, one of the media projects that I'm developing is called American Hope, or Choose Hope. And we ask people to send their story of hope, story, song, poem of hope, so we can create almost a human wall of hope and humanity to counter the despair and cynicism that we find ourselves in. Because hope, it feels great, it gives us more power, it's also contagious. So I think hope and curiosity and hope are two coins of this movement that will bring us out, that have a power to bring us out of our current situation.
That's beautiful. Swati Srivastava. I'm getting better at pronouncing your name each time I say it. Thank you for joining us on How Do We Fix It?
Thank you very much. With my pleasure.
Find out more about Swati's work and our podcast at howdowefixit.me. I'm Richard Davies, and I'm grateful as always to our producer and sound designer, Miranda Schaefer. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group.